Michaela and Aditya. Cool.
Opposition side, we have UGM, display final. On the panel, we have Brad, Gemma, Agya, Bihan, Renee, Gad, Makela, and Aditya. Right. Without further ado, let's welcome Prime Minister.
Ladies and gentlemen, we acknowledge that graphic imagery that as a visual picturization towards some kind of victim. They create a malnourished people, they emphasize the disabled people or handicapped people or the hungry people. And it is really harmful. Why? Because in the end of the day, it not help of all people who are suffering, because we also have the another things or the another victim. Example, we have gay people who are suffering from silent treatment. With the people who have a broken family. It shows to us that actually this graphic imagery brings harm to our society. So we, as the government side of the house, believe that we regret to use the graphic imagery. Our model or our alternative is very simple, that we want to create a dominant narrative in parents or school of education. We want to create we want to increase the feeling of people to do the right thing, to help these people because it is the right thing to do. Because they have the sense of morality, not because they should see the people suffering at the first place. Our goal is we want to create the altruistic cause to all of people. When all of the society have the sense to help the other people, it will help us to solve the root of the problem of the suffering in the very first place. My framework is this, that the first of all, I will talking about in the principle level, how the altruistic cause is very important for us. And then the second one, I will talking about in the practical level, how the opposition proposal will create harm and how our proposal will solve the problem of the problem. Okay, go to my first point of argument in the principle level. We believe that first of all, the institution is already wrong in the very first place. What kind of institution that sells this graphic imagery? They are an orphanage institution or the other institution that's seeking for donation toward their member. They work on this based on the profit motive. They seeking a monetary profit, and it is very bad thing because they need to take the action into the extent that they should selling the misery of their member. And then the second one, the graphic imagery that this kind of institution provide is very disgusting. Why? Because they will try to emphasize this kind of malnutrition people to get empathy from the other people. And it is really harmful. Why? Because it creates a false sense of empathy toward all people. The altruistic definition is that we want to give help to someone without expecting that person to give a contribution back toward you. Not always necessary in the form of monetary, but in anything. We don't need to expect this kind of return if we want to help the other people. And it is really bad when we have this graphic imagery that create a disgusting feeling towards some kind of people. Why? Because when we try to help this kind of people, it's not in line with the altruistic feeling. Because why you want to help these people? First, you want to release the feeling of disgusting toward this kind of people. Because the imagery graphic that given to you is really disgusting. They provide you the picture of blood. They provide you the picture of how these people is really hungry and need help in the very first place. And then the second one, why they want to help this kind of people? Because you're feeling guilty. You feel that you are more lucky than them because you have a better birth lottery than this kind of people. It shows to you that they actually don't have a heart to help this kind of people. In the end of the day, it's really harmful in the physical, in the principal level. Why? Because you help people because the commercial transaction. You do this kind of victim with you try to commercialize this kind of victim to get the empathy to help this kind of people, and it's really bad. Why? Because for the long term, when you see this kind of people get better, you don't acknowledge that the problem is access anymore. They will stop help this kind of people. So if in the level of principle, it harm toward the altruistic cause. And then yes.
When you feel inconfident when other people are helpless, isn't that what altruistic is fighting for?
Here. Ma'am, Mr. and Madam Speaker, we give you alternative how we can give empathy towards some kind of people when they realize that they need to help this kind of people when they are suffering, not because they should see this kind of people hurt in the very first place. And then in the practical level, it is really helpful if we give this kind of graphic imagery. Why? Because it not maintain level of sensitive to have the altruistic cause. Why? Because when you create a graphic imagery, you to emphasize this kind of people, this kind of victims, and it creates the fatigue toward the social. Why? Because you feel tired to this kind of image that is really not relatable to you, and then in the end of the day, it will desensitize you of your. It will desensitize you. Why? Because you feel disgust too much toward this kind of people. And then the children in the orphanage itself, it will create harm toward them. Why? Because you as the orphanage institution will try to picturize the misery always. You want to try to attract all of people to give a donation to you. And it is really bad because the children will get minorities. As example, in the Cambodia, in the very first place, they have a volunteerism. Why? Because they will try to give you the picture of the orphanage in the street to attract the tourists to get empathy toward them. In the end of the day, the children will never try to fight for themselves. The children will always get the malnourished. And then the third, it will create you a false sense of security. Because the definition of suffering, they will see it from having a bloody or swallow in the very first place. But in the end of the day, we acknowledge that there are some people that they are psychologically, they are emotionally tortured. And in the end of the day, opposition proposal will create harm because they need to wait this kind of people to be suffer or to get the mental depression until we can get help. But we can't help them in the very first place. The opposition proposal have the idea of poverty because they see the poor people in the first time. it will give you a less incentive for you to solve the problem from the root. Because you need to acknowledge, because when you see the problem already get better, you will acknowledge the problem already solved. But we know that in the very first place, the economic crime is a victimless crime, as example in the corruption. But the government side of the house perspective, that we will see the poverty is really problematic as the ideology. We will try to fight this poverty from the root, and we believe that we could solve, we could give a better solution to you. That's why we propose this motion. Thank you.
All right, thanks here for speech. Now let's welcome Namo here.
Let's take a look toward the problem promoted by design propositions, right? Their main problem is simple. It does not help all people when they use these graphic imageries. That means they don't oppose all the use of graphic imageries in inherent and default institution. Because like what they say, gay people, families can still also use their own version of graphic imageries as long as their purpose is to help the people inside that graphic imageries in the very first place. But second of all, their counter proposal is when they want to promote education and school. Then we say it's not mutually exclusive because that can be done also hand in hand with the use of graphic imageries. What they need to prove to you, ladies and gentlemen, is why the use of graphic imageries hampers all the education and other promotions altruistic motives in status quo right now. They failed to do that. They could not take point at all from this debate. Where do we stand as the side negative? We agree that right now a lot of people or charter organizations using graphic imagery on promoting altruistic causes, and they use sufferings to do that. However, we don't want to regret this method of using graphic imagery of suffering to promote altruistic causes at all. Why? Because first of all, it is one of the most effective ways to ignite the altruistic motives of people and help the disenfranchised people than other parts of the world. But second of all, because we say the use of the altruistic motive is based on the good intentions in using these graphic imageries that is promoted by the institutions. Before that, several rebuttals appointed to the case. Their first premise, they say it would not eliminate the altruistic feelings because it's disgusting. We say disgusting is an offensive word for this imagery. It might be horrifying, ladies and gentlemen, to admit that. But ladies and gentlemen, in these imageries, it has a narrative, right? It's not simply you give a picture upon that these people can be like this horrifying because on what basis, and you have the ability to elevate their positions, to do that with your own money, with your own clothing, with your own power. But second of all, the sense of you are having a luckier places, a better shoes than other people, it is the gateway on igniting your hidden altruistic motives inside your heart. And we explain further in the elaboration later. But lastly, we say this inconsistency in their proposal, right? How? In another side, they say clear social fatigue, that people feel tired seeing this image. But in another hand, you see people would not be affected at all due to this particular image that will solve the problem at all. We see no logic behind them. But more importantly, we say the purpose of altruistic motives is still not being neglected or being disturbed at all. Because people altruism still on their hand that they help these people without any payback at all, without expecting anything, even saying that they are good in the very first place. That is also standing. But on the last idea, how this is impacting the conditions of helping, like what the example of volunteer tourism in Cambodia. We said examples is irrelevant because the people still come there and helping these people, that is also helping these people in Cambodia in the first place. But moreover, it's solving the problem that is not being tackled by the people and any kind of government that exists in our current status quo. Now, before any kind of cases, we're going to look at for positive cases in the first place. That's why we not regret, because it is one of the effective ways to ignite the altruistic motives of people. Ladies and gentlemen, altruistic causes is an inherent willingness from human to help others who are in need unconditionally. And these motives can be actualized by doing extensive actions in giving donations like money, clothes, and become focused, and etc. We believe all human by default born with these altruistic motives, and we're looking for the good people in the very first place. But there are several unique ways to ignite these altruistic motives or causes inside humans' heart. These graphic imageries is exclusively have its advantage. It's in igniting people's empathy and altruistic causes. Why the image is so important? Because first of all, there is a contrast between the picture and your own life as a people. Like the pictures African kids crying of malnutrition, for example, and all stuff like that. Then people in USA, in Singapore, can see the contrast of their luxurious livings, can freely throw foods as they want, for example, but there's another part of people in the world can enable them to put on these enfranchised people's shoes, that is gentlemen. But second of all, these imageries can build a more emotional attachment from the people that see them. You see faces, you see eyes, you see expressions of people's feelings, and that's what makes all average normal person wants to help in any force that would like to do unconditionally. This can happen because there's faster information delivered from the use of graphic imageries. As the classic quote says, right, one picture, 1,000 words. That's what makes most people want to help and ignite this altruistic causes. We say, without the graphic imageries, the program of donations and charity would not be inclusive to all people, only exclusive to several people. Why? Because maybe they only use like numbers, statistics, educations, journals, and etc. Which not all people have the basic ability to comprehend and analyze the information from numbers and also what the education will take. Maybe only academicians, debaters, for example, they can only analyze the particular purposes. But emotional bond created by the graphic imagery is reaching out to the academicians, housewives, kids, teenagers, that all people can have ability to alleviate other people's life from suffering, ladies and gentlemen. This extensive benefit also goes to the disenfranchised people in this that more people willing to help them. And what about UNICEF in Africa? And that's why we should not forget these are graphic images or sufferings from people that are having in our current status quo. Before I go further to my cases, is there any question?
Yes. If you think that altruistic is helping unconditionally, then in your proposal there is condition. You want to get away from those kind of image of suffer, so you don't want to donate. That is a condition.
Inside is also fine because at the end of the day, they also helping these people in the very first place. But regardless, right, because they want to help people because they're feeling proud or not. But we say this graphic imageries is one of the exclusive ways to help you to what makes you want to help other people in the very first place, gentlemen. And that's why we say we do not regret this motive. But second of all, right, my second argument, what use of graphic imageries exposes awareness to people in multiple issues. Right now, the use of graphic imageries are used to campaign certain issues that is not visible in front of their eyes. You only talk about humans, we talk of bigger actors. What issues? Like not only poverty in Africa, but also whaling in Japan that eliminates almost 60% of world species, orangutan hunting in Indonesia, or an environmental issue that all issues which is related and use these graphic imageries. This multiple layer of issues sometimes not covered in media, political and parliamentary debate or any propaganda. What causes graphic imageries is that as more people can see and work contemporary issues and take stances in pushing government to do something. The example is very simple. One Australian activist against Indonesian slaughterhouse, and they use graphic images to promote how cruel Indonesian slaughterhouse is. They push government to put embargo on Indonesian slaughterhouse and Indonesian cow meal. And that's why it's important that these graphic images of sufferings creates an expansive awareness of people in gaining advantage of certain issues in the whole part of the world that is not exist if you only simply use positive narrative, negative narratives, or simply education. We don't want it to be exclusive in that way. But lastly, why we say that use of graphic images is also good, because it is not the purpose of benefiting yourself as an organization, not benefiting yourself as a donation institution of like Bill Gates institution, for example. It tries to promote to helping others and elevating the back of the right first place. Last place, gentlemen, use of imageries must not be regretted in any inherent people, inherent function. We're more than proud to oppose this motion.
Thanks all for the contribution. Let's go about ATMA.
Am I audible? Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ask two questions in my speech. Firstly, whether the use of imagery, graphic imagery of suffering to promote altruistic causes are principally wrong or not. Secondly, whether that is also effective or not to trigger for better, to trigger for more donation and more altruistic causes being made in society. Firstly, is the use of graphic imagery principally correct or not? On our side, we say that's wrong because the perverse incentive, the perverse interest of these intermediaries that are relying on the donation is derived from the fact that the misery will always have to be that miserable until that attracts attention and attracts money from other people, right? So on our side, we say that's bad because we think that the analogy from opposition when they say discomfort on individual level is actually good, does not fall and does not stand at all in today's debate. Because if you look at the context of what we're talking in today's debate, we say that when audience are confronted with the graphic images, when they see blood, when they see torn limbs, when they see war victims, when they say cancer victims have mutated body parts, we say that does not trigger pity at the very first level. What you feel is disgust, right? Because you cannot stare at that picture, you cannot watch that video for a long time without feeling sick, without feeling there's something wrong within yourself and that you need to repair that. We say what they do to repair that, what they do to relieve themselves from feeling guilt and disgusted is precisely what happened on their model, right? Because donation is at best made to relieve themselves from the stress and the feel of guilty, right? We say that is commercial transaction, right? When you actually purchase something in order to add to have added benefit or added utility to you, we say that it's actually commercializing, that's objectifying the victims at the very first level, right? Because what's the harm of that? We say it says that the victim's misery is dispensable. That it does not necessarily matter what they feel. What matters is how you want to relieve yourself from feeling guilt and disgusted on seeing their discomfort, right? But secondly, that even objectifying and commercializing the victims, because people will feel differently towards different victims. They will say that if you don't feel that, if you don't look that miserable, if you only have one arm instead of like no arms at all, then the person with one arm is less miserable, therefore less deserving of my attention, right? We say that is actually bad under their proposal. They say that look, people actually are born altruist, therefore their proposal complements the inherent nature. We say that's not the case at all, because when you actually are born within society, the only people that you prioritize are yourself and people that are surrounding you at most, right? We say that's actually a bad thing because now the reason why you're doing donation is because you don't want your family, you don't want yourself to feel guilt and confronted by disgusting reality. Yes.
Even if your proposal and problems to discuss, and you can say this is a proposal, when you promote narrative towards people, in what conditions people feel are.
No, that's not the case. What we want is a dominant narrative in our early education, whereby it is you need to donate, you need to feel sympathized when poverty happens, because it is the right thing to do, because poverty as a value and as a systemic problem is bad in the first place. Your proposal works like this. If you know that people tell you that poverty is bad, but you don't see people suffering, you don't see the victim of that poverty, you don't feel anything at all. We want to change the dominant narrative of our education from looking at the victim and therefore derive your morality from it, and now changing it from the morality inside it. Because why is that exclusive? Because we say when cases like because we think that systemic harm in society is basically about two things: whether it is systemic discrimination based on unfair system, for example, like governance that persecute minority, or it is an economic crime
like corruption or stealing. People, if under their proposal, if people only see as the victim, therefore, if they see the victim and therefore they want to oppose corruption, it does not ensure sustainable incentive to fight for the wrong thing. Because most of the time, corruption is a victimless crime. If you only take 2% out of the 100% government budget, your project will still happen. You can still build infrastructure and growth in society. But that does not mean that you've already done something wrong in principle, right? So we say when we actually trigger people to blindly believe that when you actually violate your mandate, you violate the trust that your government put to you, when they trust you with the government budget, even if it's just 2% and does not kill 100 people, that's still a bad thing to do. No, thank you. Secondly, the question whether it is effective or not. They say it is effective because emotion is inclusive. We say that's not the case, right? Because when they propose us as if we're going to defend statistics, no, we're not going to defend statistics. What we defend is that dominant narrative in the first place, right? But secondly, if they say that no, emotion actually targets people that are poorer or people inclusive to majority of the people, we don't think that's the most important thing, because we don't realize people who are at equal level of poverty to actually help other people in need. Right? So we say that's not actually exclusive on their side. But secondly, the harm is exclusive on our side, because people are will tend to be desensitized, right? Because we think that the emotion, the graphic level that they can take is gonna hit a ceiling point at some point. So on your side, you're gonna make you don't create that like sustainable incentive to donate, because people will hit that ceiling point at some point, right? But secondly, there's also exclusive harm on our side. When you create the expectation that if some people are confronted with the graphic imagery but don't do anything, then this person has a sick morality and is disgusting as a person. We say that this discriminates people who have the incentive and have the capital to help other people, because you don't see the reason why they don't donate, right? Because you make donation as obligatory in the first place. Thirdly, we say there is also a long-term harm exclusive under our side. Because once you are contrasted with the graphic imagery of people in Africa, but you are a UK citizen, we say it does not make you feel relatable to what happens in Africa, right? Because precisely when you live far away from the reality of what happens in Africa, precisely because what you see in reality and what you see in the media is so confronting. We say when you go back to the England, you don't feel anything at all. You don't become the person that will fight for higher cause. Right? So, and lastly, they say that look, imageries are good to create political incentive. We say that's not the case, because people will automatically have the incentive to push for their government to be accountable to the allocation of government resources. We don't see the victim in the first place, right? On their best case scenario, the media will scandalize the emotion. We say that perverse incentive to commercialize the victim, as what I've told you before, because what they have in the proposal is not altruistic at all. It is commercial transaction that actually demeans the victims. Thank you.
Right. I thank DK for the speech. Now let's call on Hero.
They come up here and say that we can use another means, but they never prove how it's going to be effective. It's effective how to use this graphic imagery. Because, for example, right, you try to promote the narrative that there is a poverty, that there is a corruption that leads into a lot of disease inside of Africa. The first impulse that you are going to have is that really true, that what's happening? Is that really to government? Is that evil, that letting people dead and having a disease? Is that really bad for the people are, for example, affected by poverty? Isn't that normal? In every developing countries, they have poverty. But when it comes to comes to image, right? It's giving confidence and it's giving verifications to what happens and what you are trying to promote. That it did happen in reality. There's government that really evil, that actually torturing their own people. That it did verify that it's really bad for you, for actually living in poverty. That a lot of your neighbor dead and actually be picturized in one image that finally many people want to have this particular individual. So we think that what the exclusivity coming from side opposition. We're moving on to my extension, right? Several points of response. Firstly, they say that it harms altruism because of it's giving you a disgust, but never did they analyze what's so wrong of people being inconvenienced if people are living under suffer conditions. Because what altruism is, because they also never never define. You start to relate yourself with what other people feel like. When they feel hurtful, when they feel in pain, when they feel injured, it affects you. That altruism is. And when actually people start to disgust them, they start to realize that they project themselves as an equal human being that don't want to be treated that way. They think that actually when we feel that it's disgusting for people, for example, living without sanitation, they project themselves, they also don't want to be treated that way, and they see they need to do something because as a human, they also want to stop this this particular problem because they also don't want to live in that particular conditions. Or second of all, right? Maybe you feel at a second of all, you finally can relate into all their narrative that they're trying to promote, right? You relate that indeed it's happening, indeed it's really bad, and we think that's how actually altruism works. It starts to give relations between you and the people that you want to have. So it's like with their ideals. Second of all is the idea of commercialization. Again, it never explains what commercialization is. We think commercialization is to accept benefit for economic purposes. But what you are doing in here is that you are giving benefit purely for the people that you want to help. So we think it's not commercialization at all. We think that actually that they never explain the ideal parameters and their proposals never lead into that ideal. And the idea of objectification as well. We don't think when you see people have only one leg, you think that actually they are more fortunate than the people who have two legs. People will finally see that they are equally suffering because of the fact that you are promoting is that simply because of they are in suffering, right? So we think that the idea of objectification is not sense at all. And the idea of sustainability, right? They said that actually, look, this is it's not going to be sustainable because of what we need to improve. It's actually the system. Exactly. This is the way how you process the system to work, right? Because you see how bad that is. Because you see how actually people are living really suffer, and you need a systematic approach to that. Because they're going to know political at all. To the government, for example, if they think that actually people, for example, outside of that, there's still the connections toward people that living inside of Africa. They would not push the government inside of Africa to handle that problem. And we think it's a political that necessary. We think it's going to be sustainable. Not to mention, we do not regret other means that we use, right? So we're trying to say that this is one of legitimate way, as legitimate as other means that you are trying to do for propagating people to help other individuals that are helpless. So we think it's sustainable as other ways that you're using. Lastly, is in the idea of discriminative. This is actually it would make feeling immoral not to help this particular individual. Why it's so wrong? Because you out of nowhere, you feel that actually you are immoral if you are not helping individual. We think that altruism means you do not need a reason. Simply you feel bad because you do not help. Simply because of your feel bad because people are suffering. That one altruism, right? You do not need a reasons at all, and that's what propagating by this picture. But even if, right, that actually it's actually discriminative, we think it's fine because it outweighs the harm, because it raises the donations of the people and alleviating poverty. It's alleviating, for example, the human suffering because of that. How do we even accepting individuals to give a lot a huge donation because, like what they say, they feel inconvenient and want to run away from these particular images. We think that benefit is worth it. Now, when we want to my extensions,
you see more victims that are losing their lives. If I'm a gay person living in an oppressed family, but I still have my families, how do you sympathize with me? Because I do not graphically look like I'm suffering.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. You will have another way actually showing that particular emotion. But we think for specific things that you need to look at, it doesn't negate that it's bad for using the image that can be reflected to help these particular individuals in a further level, right? So we don't think that the Uadc gets all the principles that we're using in this particular debate. It makes sense. I'm going to directly counter all the narrative coming from side propositions. The first idea is how do we encourage voluntarism? Because they say it's going to counterproductive to where the voluntarism is. Within the status quo today, like what they say, there's a lot of aid, for example, that expecting benefit from countries like Africa, like Indonesia. They want democracy implemented first in order for them giving this, in order for them to get aid. They want a contract in mining gas, for example, in order this particular country getting their aid, or improving environmental protection. Showing image of suffering. It would make, like what they say, people inconvenient for expecting benefit from this particular individual. They see that actually they are really evil for them, but expecting something for people that look like very vulnerable. It makes conditional benefit like populist animal to be propagated by certain countries like United States or other countries, because it's showing that actually these people are needed immediate, are really immediate. It doesn't need any prerequisite at all, and how capable they are for providing a prerequisite that being propagated by this government. Because that's how it encourages voluntarism and actually alleviating the conditional benefit that expecting by some actors, right? And second idea, how it punishes people that actually misusing this thing. Because they try to say that some of organizations are misusing the money and blah blah blah. Then what image of suffering does, that it shows whether or not it works, because that's providing a counterbalance. But what happens in Africa, for example, it shows that government is still not working. It shows that actually NGOs that giving money to that, it's still actually not effective for doing that. It's giving you a counterbalance that there is still need of us for helping the individual. And for all the reasons, we're very proud to oppose this movie.
Check. Am I audible? This debate was sorry. Yeah. This debate was about altruism. It's not simply helping. In the end of the day, opposition needs to prove is helping equal with altruism, because altruism is the truest goal we want to protect here, is the truest goal that we want to achieve here. Is helping, is simply helping equals with altruism? This question never grasped by the opposition side of the house. I will divide this debate into two parts of class. First, which proposal able to achieve bestest of meaning of altruism, and the second part of class, I will prove to you which proposal able to create empathy to people so we can connect each other and helping each other without condition at all, which is the true goal of altruism. Come to the first part of my class, which proposal able to achieve the meaning. Opposition argue that graphic meaning, what does graphic imagery do is at least you want to help people, at least you make people to help them because it's contrast with their life. But my question is helping equal with altruism? Because simply helping is not equal with altruism, because altruism means that you do not want any condition at all. You do not want expect any return. But how about graphic imagery? You want to donate with graphic imagery because you're expecting a benefit. What kind of benefit? Expecting that there is people that you do not want to see. For example, this kind of image you want to hide them because you do not want to see this kind of horrifying image that you want to donate because you feel you will feel that you are guilty because of that. This is a context that we already built up from the first time. That is the reason why helping with graphic imagery means that you're helping with a condition. You're not unconditional because there is a benefit you want to expect when you want to donate. This kind of context never engaged by their side. But on the second level, we feel that help. For example, like this: if you're a political candidate, you want to also like helping your alliance, but it's not you want to helping means that you want to expect like benefit. For example, political relation or something like that, right? That's why this is same. They're expecting something like that, but that's not altruism. How the best we achieve altruism? It's by our proposal, because with our moral education that they also have engaged, we have made people able to want to help people, because it's not like entitled to graphic imagery, but people have a conscience. People automatically want to help you because they feel like this is right thing to do, this is what I should do, and they understand why they want to help me, because they were each other was a human, not because this graphic imagery. That's why in the truest meaning of altruism, when we help people with unconditionally, our proposal achieves the truest meaning.
Yes, government never determines on what origin that your morality derived from it. And that's the use of graphic imagery as a default institution should not be regretted in any proposal.
But with your proposal, means government define you should help people when there is come to graphic imagery. Means that now government is the one who define you should only help people when it comes to this kind of graphic imagery. When you see people suffering, means that you should help them. But you do not help people that do not seem like this kind of imagery. That's why in their proposal, government dictates what society should do, what society should have. That's not altruism. We answer that. Come to the second part of clashes. Which proposal able to create empathy? Opposition argue that willingness to help is why the proposal effective. Because there will be a willingness to help, because it's contrast with their life, and there will be emotional attachment. But what is the problem with this argument? The problem is, at best, you want to only help people who similar with this kind of image. But how about people that do not seem like this kind of image? You will desensitize because you already see the image that more horrifying than a real life condition. For example, my partner already explained to you that gay people that are having those kind of silent treatment, they do not seem like they're suffering, right? But people do not want to help them because they were not similar to what imagery that now we promoted. But on the other side, if this gay or gay in that state means that they already in a like lower stage, means they already have like their mental damage until they seem suffering, and that is bad because we could prevent that from happening, but we do not want to help people because we do not see them as someone that's suffering. So we want to prevent this. This kind of exclusive benefit never answered by their side, right? But on the second level, how they say that how best to achieve altruism, how best to create empathy when you feel like you're equal with another human. But graphic imagery do not make you feel equal with another human. Why so? Because when you see graphic imagery, you feel superior compared to people in those kind of image. You feel you were more lucky. You feel that you feel that you were more superior. You have a complete body and not disabled. That's why you want to help them. You do not feel like you're equal. You feel like you're more superior. That's why you feel pity towards them. And that's not equal, right? What we want to achieve here, when you want to create equality, is by our proposal, because our proposal will educate you that no matter what, you should help another person, no matter what happens, either with condition or without condition, because we teach you philosophy behind that. We teach you what is the morality, what is right thing to do, because this is emphasis on this is what we will be emphasis under our proposal. How about that proposal to say now government in Africa will be pushed or something like that, extension coming from their side. This will be also answered by our side. Why do so? Why so? Because when we teach people about morality, they will consciously help people, and government consists of people. So when government also has this automatic willingness to help people, we do not need another push because they will willingly help these people. We answer their extension. But how about their cases about animals that do not mutually exclusive? If we already raise their awareness, right? Because we can also do that under our proposal. But what is so harmful under their proposal? Because they will be desensitized. They do not have willingness to help if if the people do not seem like the image in the brochure or something like that. That's why we do not create meaning of altruism. In the end of my speech, I will prove to you why our proposal is beneficial, why the proposal have heart, and which proposal able to achieve altruism we propose.
Thank you, Kabui. Now I call for our brief.
We regret the way they brought this debate, right? Because they are too busy talking about what is altruistic and what is not, and forgetting about the real thing we need to talk about here. Graphic imagery, ladies and gentlemen. If they come up here by saying that actually, look, we can propose education, by that people will still get information. How will you actually ensure that also the information that you give in education doesn't also give superiority feeling to this person at the end of the day? Because what they didn't tell in education, look, Singaporeans, you're so lucky. You live in a developed country, and look at Indonesia, they're also so poor, therefore you need to help them. If you feel you're superior, then you're also contradicting your thing, right, by saying that actually this is not altruistic at the end of the day. So this kind of debate is very confusing. You put the actual the wrong strategies to come out in here. Exactly dealing with the superiority. We think it's even better have something in our case. The moment you have someone, it's because you feel that you're different. It's actually you feel that you're superior. Superior in what way? You feel that the condition you're living right now are so much better than the person you see in the image. That superiority puts you into the idea, I'm more lucky than them. Therefore, what I need to do is to help them unconsciously too, right? Because you don't expect them after you helping them, suddenly they will become your girlfriend, or you don't expect that people in Africa after you helping them, suddenly they will come back to you. Nothing else. This is exactly the meaning of unconditional, right? But before we're talking about the real issue in here, let's talk about some unimportant that they brought in this debate, which is about altruism, right? So they come up here by saying that actually, look, what altruism means is that people purely donate something because they just want to do it because they're an angel, right? How are you going to make sure someone do it because of they want to have a good image, or because they want to have, because it's coming inside from their heart, or because sometimes they feel that actually empathize is here. The thing is, they only talk about people who react bad towards the image, but they don't talk about the people who react good towards the image. The one who actually empathize with that, the one who actually feel they need to help with that. So we think it's in our part. Second parameter that they brought about altruistic is that in return, right? People need to help because they don't have anything in return. Now you need to actually focus on by proving why because of graphic imagery suddenly people will have something in return because of that. Because the way they actually portray is because people will feel disgust and suddenly they want this problem to go away. Ladies and gentlemen, disgust is a very strong word for me. But the thing is actually we want poverty to be eliminated in this world. It is because we don't want to see it anymore. We don't want people to live in that really suffer condition. That's exactly how we eliminate things. If you don't have even that condition, even if you don't have any, feeling upon that, how are you going to react on that exactly, right? So even in the idea of return, which you don't get any return, even by seeing this graphic imaginary, right? So even if you get return, it's even a good return today. But what we are trying to control, but what is the parameter of altruistic in us? The parameter of altruistic in us is that no matter who you are, whether you are in a developed country, when you see a graphic imaginary about people suffering in Africa, you will feel something about that unconditionally. Why? Just because you're a human. Just because you feel that for human, it is not fine for them to live in that kind of poverty. It is not fine for children to get no food. It is not fine for family to live in sanitation. Nothing in there, right? Unconditionally. Maybe you have because you feel empathize, but you don't get anything about that except humanity, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly precisely because you feel bad if you have the ability to help, but
which do not have these people. That's the actually definition of what altruistic is, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we're talking about parenting, right? The altruistic that we mean, we don't say people who are supposed to be altruistic is only the educated people, or the debaters, or the researchers. We say the one who's supposed to become altruistic is also everyone. The midwives, for example, the children, the teenagers, exactly, right? But they never engage in this. They only talk about education, which doesn't extend to you. Why? Those people outside that actually have no awareness can come up with only what narrative thinking without any graphic imaginary behind that. So we don't believe that actually they engage in our idea. Now second, right? Let's second about the philosophical thinking. This is about, because if you do this, you commercialize the victim, right? Well, this is a good idea, but you need to prove as a first place, why are you commercializing the victim? Because the intention when you have them is not to commercialize or take a profit from them, but to give profit to them at the very first place. This is exactly different with the definition of exploitation, right? You exploit someone when you get the benefit out of their suffering for yourself. But you don't do that. You even return the benefit to these people at the end of the day. So this is not commercializing at all, ladies and gentlemen, that we're doing in here. Before I go,
at your best scenario, the people who react good to graphic imagery would prioritize orphanage with less people, less kids being able to go to school compared to the orphanage that is doing better. Why is that a good thing even?
to see a children is sad and not getting a good infrastructure doesn't realize in numbers, ladies and gentlemen. Just because an orphanage is bigger or just because an orphanage is smaller, it doesn't matter. As long as you see that they're sad, they're suffering, you will help them anyway, right? So we don't actually get mutually exclusive. Now let's talk about the philosophical justification, ladies and gentlemen. They say come up here and say that actually, look, what about gay people? What about, a lot of things actually cannot be shown in this idea. First, maybe you're not creative enough to imagine it. You can also portray them, right? Because a picture of picturing gay people that they are lonely and they cannot get marriage, for example, we portray the image is also capable, right? To do this, right? But even if it's not right, it's okay because we don't ban any other. If you reveal any other, it's not because we have it. We really only use it. We use also only the understanding in education, in narrative, in everything. We use every single thing that's possible to get at the problem in our society that is different with ours and better. So it's never better to be used in our idea. But they never engage to the idea of our different. How? With altruistic, as long as the intention is with the human race, it is good, it is fine. No rebuttal coming to them. Second was emotion. When you see the graphic picture, right, you have any related emotion with that particular victim. Maybe not only human, but also animals, also the environment, right? Let me tell you, if you're being told that some people living in a really small island, it's not in Pacific, for example, they're really living they're really scared because the level of seeing crisis every day and they're threatened because of that. If I tell you that, you cannot imagine that. But if I show you a picture, they're really scared to live that way. They're really, being a victim because of it. You will change your behavior. Maybe take a shower and in less time because of that, for example. So we really actually the idea of philosophical justice is very good going to the ladies and gentlemen. We're very proud to win this AFL, their final.
Move on to EFL reply by holding reply.
The underlying of the case is that our proposal brings harm, but never did they explain why those harm never happens under their paragraph. Because what they propose, or what they oppose, is the means, not the message that they would propagate, like what the same message, like what opposition is trying to communicate. So we think that even if their underlying basis, since what they are not opposing is not the means, we don't think it's even a valid case to be counted as it's a solid case as a counterpart of state. So what exactly the question tries to investigate, right? What is altruistic, whether or not it might do it? They bring a lot of parameters and already say that it's still in line with the parameters anyway. The first parameter is coming from there is that you have a purpose in order to help these people, because simply you feel disgusted, you feel inconvenient. We say that purpose comes first, then you start to relate, because altruistic is about you show the relentless between you and the people you want to help. And the thing that's what this image does, right? Because it shows when you are just with this image, when you feel inconvenient with this image, you feel the empathy because you are the same human being. You also don't want to be treated that way. You feel the similarity between you and them. You don't have any other reasons to expect them to do anything, because simply you are equally as a human. But that's how we start people to actually start doing something as altruism as what they expect them to do. And second of all, right, they define altruism as you don't expect anything. It's a voluntarism and blah blah blah. They say that actually when you are propagating the idea of image, you are giving an image and you are giving a message of superiority. But never did we analyze what this superiority means. This superiority means you have enough. You do not need to expect other people, simply do not expect another people when you are helping them. And I think that's what this image does, right? Giving a feeling of superior that made people feel enough about themselves and no longer expecting other people when they are helping this individual, right? So we think that actually that superiority, even to one that propagating altruism even further, using their own parameters. The parameter that they are talking and parameters coming from us is that what altruism means is that the end what matters, right? When actually you are using this as a means to actually achieve the alleviations of poverty, for example, increasing awareness about environment, for example, solely for their purposes. They come out here and simply say a scenario basis that we also oppose. Things like mismanagement, things like intention. It's not something that we're debating on because we also oppose that all together. But we think as long as actually it doesn't happen, and status quo proving that it doesn't happen, that many good management can always be happening in ourselves as well. We don't think that can stand. But at worst scenarios, right, that we would never know what these people would feel. Either they would feel superior, either they would feel inconvenient, whatever, but they don't know what it is. They simply feel that they are immoral for not helping the people that what altruism is. Out of reason, out of nowhere, you feel that you are wrong if you are not helping that particular individual. That's what altruism is, right? You're selling something that human cannot know where it's coming from. What is that feeling? And why is the how I feel this thing? That altruism is. You simply feel that you are immoral for not helping this individual, right? So what are actually the conclusions, right? Using all the parameters, we think that we're still in line with altruism. But even that harms that people who give to side of positions never been proven that it would not happen by all the means that they are using. Things like education, things like seminar, journal, whatsoever they are talking about. And the last failure that never been contested is that why, using all the means that you are proposing, it will achieve the same level of altruism that actually oppositions want. Never did they explain, well, we already give you an exclusive benefit of this image, of the subject image. For all the reasons, we're fair to opinion.
Alright, let's take a speaker from Gadjah now. Participate will come up reply.
There are two questions that I will talk about in my speech. Firstly, is status quo in line with what achieves altruistic causes or not? And secondly, whether their proposal actually helps the people in need, and what do we suggest in alternative, right? Firstly,
let's talk about what is altruistic or not. On the first principle level about what altruistic means, on site government, we cherish human beings. We feel like when some people are miserable, it does not justify people who are born with a better birth lottery advantage or are now living in a privileged situation to feel like they can to feel like they're superior. However, the status quo achieves that. Because when you're confronted with very disgusting imagery, precisely because it is very graphic, when you see torn lips, when you see more victims that are bleeding, that malnourished kids who are very, very disgusting to you, the audience will feel sick because they cannot stare at the pictures that are very, very graphic without feel like there is something wrong with them, without feeling guilty, without feeling sick at all. Then the debate starts after that, right? Then what does the donation mean when people are being confronted with that imagery? We say that's actually akin to commercial transaction. When the donation that you make to these people is just a way for you to relieve yourself from feeling guilty, to feel like you're not to stop feeling sick anymore because you want that feeling to go away. That is harmful on so many levels. We say that makes a message that human life is dispensable, and we also put different price tag to different victims, right? Because precisely, right? Because we recognize that human is imperfect. The way they associate the misery, when you see people with just one limb at least, when you see people with no limbs at all, we feel like the first case will trigger less emotion because now you realize there is a bigger thing to fight for, which is people who have less suffering, right? On their side, there is no response at all as to why that's principally correct. They only say that commercial transaction is wrong as long as they get the money, but hold on, that's what we've suggested on our side. When the commercial incentive to get money relies on you making these victims are trapped on that miserable situation. On our side, we also suggest that you are now making altruistic cause as an obligation, right? Because you create negative sentiment from society to people who are already confronted by the graphic imagery but do not do anything to help, because you yourself recognize that people all start at different level in terms of the capacity to help people. Now the reason why they actually donate is because they do not want to get judged by the society anymore, because they do not want to be considered as a person with sick morality that does not feel triggered to help at all when they see torn lip pictures, right? Our version of altruism works better, right? Because we say there is no short-term or long-term benefit, which akin to what they say. On our side, we say everything is a long-term solution to create a sustainable incentive to always help people. Because the narrative in the education on our version will be that now you hate corruption because in principle you've already violated the mandate given to you to manage the government fund to create for social good, right? So we say that in cases when crimes are victimless, in our side, you still have the incentive to oppose the ideology of being corrupted in the first place. Now, eventually the principle goes to us, right? But let's now deal with the harms, with the practical harms, right? We say that the chunk of our case regarding how people will feel desensitized, because in the long run, you will always try to make sure you keep up with the existing level of misery, of graphic imagery until to make people always have a reason to donate, right? What will happen in volunteerism in Cambodia, like we said, when you try to parade people on the street being very malnourished, because that's the only reason that your charity attracts donation sustainably. Like on this side of the house, we have barely heard any response at all. We say in our best case scenario, when people react and donate, precisely, according to when I give my POI, they say that look, people don't care about numbers but victims who die. That kills entirely their case, right? When they realize that people are actually attracted to the number and the graphic description as to the reason why people should donate. Ladies and gentlemen, we say that victims' lives are not dispensable. On-site government is my last speech in NTU Uadc. I'm very proud to propose.
Speakers for this EFL final, first class for chicken,
I don't have enough. You can pass it to me at once. No. Yeah.
I have a few ballots. I don't know if I have 9 though. Oh, I had a few. They all got handed out.
Because they're just gonna announce it on the ceremony, right?
Yeah, the debaters don't want to see the scores in the margin.
Okay. So just in case we write down. If they don't want it, don't.
I don't think it does, but okay. Then just the winner. Okay. Oh, did we do finals best speaker? Okay. Jeff, finals best speaker.
Just in case we write.
Okay.
Now?